Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to a preview of this game right here. This is Honor's End. It is the next game coming to you from Ivy Studios, who is sponsoring today's video, so huge thank you to them, and it is designed by the team of three, which is Zach Dixon, Austin Harrison, as well as Max Anderson. And Honor's End is a cooperative deck building game. It also offers a solo mode, which we love that here at the Board Game Garden. It plays 1 to 4 players. It plays in about 90 to 120 minutes, and it is for ages 14 plus. There are 2 different modes to play in this game, which is the story mode as well as the adventure mode. The adventure mode offers a replayable game that you can play anytime, where you are just trying to defeat 3 enemies and win the game. Or there's also the story mode where you are going through a narrative adventure. It is 9 chapters long, and I was sent a prototype, which keep that in mind, this is a prototype. Everything that you guys see here in front of me is prototype and subject to change. But with this prototype, I received the first 3 chapters. So technically prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2. And there is more to the story that is going to be available in the final version of the game. But yes, if you guys want to hear more about Honor's End, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also, hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. I will have the link to the campaign down below in the description box as well. This is available now when this video goes up. This will be going up a few days after the campaign launches, so definitely go and check it out if this sounds like something that you guys would be interested in. But yes, without further ado, let's get into this preview of Honor's End, shall we? Alright, so getting into a little bit of an aim of the game as well as all of the components here in front of me, which, like I said, this is a prototype and everything is subject to change. So starting with the aim of the game, Honor's End is set in Valora. It is a medieval kingdom, and the story follows a company of knights summoned to the capital to face the rising threat of the outsider Zati. As whispers of ancient magic resurface and a hidden power stirs in the shadow, the players must uncover ancient secrets and the true meaning of honor. So in the game, players are going to be playing as knights, and like I said, this is a cooperative game. It is a cooperative deck building game. Players are not actually building a deck cooperatively. Each player is building their own deck, but you are cooperatively using your own individual decks to defeat different enemies. Like I said, there are 2 different modes in this. You have the story mode, where you are together as a group or solo going through a narrative story. But then if you do want to play Honor's End just one and done, you can play the adventure mode, which is just one kind of play of the game where you're defeating 3 enemies. If you're able to do that without running out of honor, then you win the game in that way as well. The cool thing though is that the story mode kind of offers some kind of in-game expansions, if that makes sense. So as you're going throughout the story mode, you're going to be unlocking more components that then, once you have gone through that chapter, those components will be added to the base game going forward. So you're kind of adding more things into the game as you go through the story mode, which I think is very cool. But yes, that is pretty much everything for the aim of the game. I'll go through more so what you are doing in the game, obviously in the overview of how it plays. But as for the components here, we have the box, which I've noticed with some other creators receiving these that the box cover of all of them are different. So this is the character that I got on my box cover, but then some of my fellow creators and friends have gotten different covers. So I thought that that was really fun, and I'm hoping that that is what is going to happen with the final product. Everyone's going to kind of receive a random box cover. But yes, that is the box here. We also have some components over here that I'm not using, but for different player counts, you are going to be using different components. But let me start with kind of the main area here. So you're going to have 2 different main boards. This board here is where all of the different cards are going to be. There's a ton of different cards in this game because it is a deck building game. So you are going to have cards that you're adding into your deck. You're also going to have cards that you're kind of building a little bit of a tableau over here of. So you have some wound cards here. You have the hero cards. You have the kind of advanced action cards. You also have some equipment cards as well as some consumable cards, which those 2 are the cards cards that you're going to be building up a little bit of a tableau of, but then the wounds, heroes, and advanced action cards are going to be placed into your hand. So that is the board there. You also have a supply of different dice. So there are 2 different types of dice in the game. There are inspiration dice, which are these purple dice. You're going to be gaining those throughout the game to be able to do additional actions with your cards that you've placed in front of you. And then you also have the danger dice, which those are both in black and gray. Black dice are going to be the danger dice that stay in your supply, whereas the gray, once you've used them in a round, they're going to go back to the supply. So those are the 2 different types of danger dice. I will kind of explain what those are when we get into the game. Each player is also going to have one of these little dials. This is just to keep track of how much damage you're doing during a round, and then how much you are able to spend on these 2 different tracks here, which I'll get into. But that is to just help you keep track of things that you're gaining during a round. And then as for the main board here, this is kind of like the enemy board. So you have a space here for the enemy that you're currently going against. And the enemy cards are going to have some different information on them. First thing at the top is going to be their health for that enemy. So based off of the player count, so the board that I have here is for a solo game. I do have this set up as a solo game, but on the other side of this is a 2-player game, and then you have this board over here, which is for a 3 and 4-player game. But that is going to change the different amount of health that each of the enemies are going to have, because obviously if you're playing this alone, the health is going to be lower than if you are playing with other players and everyone is putting kind of attack towards one enemy. So here with the solo board, you have 15, 25, and 35 for health. And you are going to look at where the enemy's banner is on their card, and that's going to line up with one of those 3 kind of health spots. So for example, with this one here, it is in line with the 15 health, but this enemy does have a printed +5 on their card. So wherever that is, plus any modifiers for that enemy, it's going to be the health of that enemy. So this one here is 15 +5. So this enemy, I've set it down here to 20. And then each enemy is also going to have some different abilities that are going to be triggered based off of this enemy track here. So every single round, the enemy track is going to be put up 1 space. There are these skull +1, and that means that you do have to move up then on the threat track. That's going to give you more of these danger dice that you're going to have to roll at the beginning of each turn and kind of deal with. But also, as you move up this enemy track, there's going to be different abilities based off of that enemy that are going to trigger. So for example, when I moved this up, I would have to move up the threat track once. That would add one of the black danger dice to my pool. And then it would also set off their blue ability, which is every player gains 1 wound card into their deck. So it's going to go into the deck, and wound cards are just going to be there and not really help you and kind of muck up your deck in a way. So that is kind of how the enemies work here. And then you also have the 2 different tracks here, which is the temple track as well as the monarchy track. And these are going to be 2 tracks that you or everybody at the table together are going to be going up to gain additional things into your deck. So this is kind of the like market of the game. So as you gain these monarchy as well as temple icons throughout the game with your deck building and playing out cards, you're going to be able to spend those points to move up on these 2 tracks and gain additional things for your deck, as well as you can gain more of these equipment cards, more of the consumable cards, and you can kind of decide where you want to go on this track and kind of the path that you want to take based off of the things that you want to add to your deck. So in the solo game, you're going to draw 3 of those cards and then choose 1. But in the multiplayer mode, so for example, if I got to this spot here, which is adding a advanced card to your deck, you would take a certain amount of cards based off of the player count. You'd spread those out, and then players, starting with the player that has the kind of start player token here, you will draft them from that pool. So everyone is gaining whatever that kind of reward is. So yes, those are the 2 tracks there. There's also going to be spots that allow you to get more honor, which honor is kind of your health as the player or the players. If you ever reach 0 honor, you're going to lose the game. And then also if you run out of time here on the threat track is kind of your timer as well. If you run out of time, that's also a way that you can lose the game. So there are different ways on these tracks to gain more honor. There's also ways to get rid of these danger dice as well, and different things like that. So yes, that is everything for the two main boards here. You also have trait cards here, which whenever you defeat a enemy, you're going to gain a trait. You're going to gain 2 and then decide which one you want to keep. Trait cards are going to be kind of half and half. So it's going to be something bad that's going to happen, but then also something good that's going to happen. And it might be something that just instantly happens, one and done. It might be something that happens every single round, both bad and good. And then you also have different enemies here because, like I said, you're going to have 3 enemies that you have to defeat. So we have the first enemy here, which they kind of get harder as you go on in the game. So we have the first enemy, second enemy, third enemy. All of this kind of what I'm talking about here is generally for the adventure mode. But if you are playing in the story mode, there's going to be variable setup for each of the chapters and kind of more of a story within that, rather than kind of a set gameplay. So yes, everything that I'm kind of explaining right now is more so for the adventure mode, and then just know the setup and kind of things going on in each of the chapters are going to be different based off of the chapters. But that is kind of the main area here. And then as for the player area, so like I said, I do have this set up for a solo game. So you do have the Squire deck. This is something that you're only going to be using for the solo game. And this kind of gives you an additional thing that you can do on your turn. You're going to flip over 1 each round, and that's going to give you some sort of instant ability. So with this one here, it gives me 1 shield, which I'll get into what that is. And then it also gives me an ability that I can use if I spend inspiration dice. So that is the Squire deck. You're just going to be flipping over a new card each round. Each player is going to have one of these boards here. The top area is going to be for your draw deck. You have a spot here for danger dice. You have a spot here for shielded danger dice, which as you shield them, you're going to move them over into the shielded area. You have a spot here for inspiration dice that you can gain and use whenever you'd like. And then you also have a spot at the bottom for your discard pile. So that is what everyone is going to have. And then to the right of that board is where you are going to be doing your chains and your deck building. So we're going to get into that. But as for what each player has, each player is going to start with the same starting deck of, I believe, 9 cards. And then each player is going to randomly get 1 wound card, 1 hero card, as well as 1 advance action card. And then you're also going to get 1 consumable, which consumables are going to be cards that you can use for a one-time ability. Flip it over, and that'll be the time that you can use it. And then the equipment cards are going to be ongoing abilities that you can use throughout the game. So for example, here I have once per turn, spend 1 inspiration die to shield a danger die. So this is one of like the starter equipment cards, which there are 4 starter equipment cards that when you are playing your first few games, they recommend you use those. But there are some more advanced kind of equipment cards there as well. And you can gain additional equipment cards throughout the game with the Temple and Monarchy track. So yes, you kind of have those equipment and consumable cards off to the left side. And then this side here is going to be where you're playing your cards. You're going to shuffle in your starter hero, your wound, as well as your starter advance card. You're going to shuffle those all together, and those are going to be your starter decks. So you're going to have a starter deck of 12 cards, and then those will go at the top here. Additionally, you start with 1 of the black danger dice, and that is pretty much everything for the setup and what everyone has. There's additionally 2 different player reference cards here. So we have 1 here, which is the adventure mode, as well as a setup. And these are specific to player count. So I have the setup for the solo mode or the 1-player adventure mode. So we have that there. And then you also have this here, which is the phases. And then on the other side, we have a little legend of what all of the different icons mean throughout the game. So yes, those are the player reference cards. And without further ado, let me get into exactly how to play Honor's End. A lot of the stuff I actually kind of already explained in going over all of the components, but let's go quickly through the different phases in the game and what you are doing on your turn. All right, so getting into exactly what you're doing during the game. This is, like I said, a cooperative game, so a lot of it is simultaneous, but the first thing that you're going to do is going to be the enemy phase, which this is skipped during the first round, but subsequent rounds, it's going to happen at the beginning of the round. And I've already explained this, but you're going to move up the enemy track here. That's going to then trigger you to possibly go up the threat track. You're going to gain some more of those danger dice, possibly, and then you're also going to trigger the specific enemy's abilities that are kind of in line with that spot on the enemy track. So that is the first thing that's going to happen during the game. The next phase is assign and roll. So this is you taking a look at your pool of danger dice. This is going to change based off of player count, but for a solo game, you are just going to start with one die, and obviously you are the only player, so that's going to go into your pool of danger dice. But in a multiplayer game, you are going to discuss who can take on the danger dice. So you will already have your hand of cards, so you can better kind of figure out if you can take on that danger die or not. So you're going to have your hand of 5 cards, and as a group, like I said, you're going to discuss who can take the danger dice. So I might see that I have some cards that will allow me to shield, so I might take this into my danger pool, and then maybe another player takes a few, or you all equally take them. Based off of how many danger dice you have and what everyone has in their hand, you're going to kind of divvy those up. Once you do that, all players are going to roll their danger dice, and they are going to be placed into your danger pool. So there are 3 different, or I guess 4 different sides of these danger dice. There's going to be the wound side. So if you are unable to shield this die, you will gain an additional wound. Into your deck, it'll go into your discard pile, and then once you reshuffle your discard pile, that will be something that you have to deal with. But if you do shield it, you will not gain it. There is also a dishonor as well as double dishonor. So this is, if you don't shield it, your honor will go down 1 or down 2. But if you're able to shield it, then you will not lose any honor. And then lastly, there is the kind of safe side. So it's this yellow star here. This is, if you don't shield it, nothing will happen. But if you are able to shield a black safe die, that means that you can get rid of this black die from your pool. So it's a way to lower the amount of these danger dice in your pool each round. So it's a good way to get rid of those. And each player can only discard a total of 2 of those safe black danger dice each round. The next phase is the planning phase, which this is not so much in the solo mode, but it is in the multiplayer mode, where the player that has the leader totem is going to place that leader totem on one of their equipment cards, and everybody, all of the players at the table, will get that ability for the entire round. So obviously, if you only have one, you're going to choose that one. But once you, throughout the game, have more of those equipment cards, the leader is going to be able to choose one of their equipment cards to place the totem on, and then all the players are going to get that ability, plus whatever abilities they have personally. So if I placed this here, every player this round will be able to spend an inspiration die to shield a die. So that is the first thing that you're going to do. And then additionally, during this round, if you have any cards that have an ally ability, which is this little purple icon in the bottom corner, you're going to be able to give these cards or discard these cards in order to kind of give these abilities to other players. So this here, I could discard this card to give one other player at the table the ability to draw 2 cards. So I could decide to do that, and that would allow me to help another player. But if you don't have any of those, obviously you couldn't do that. And then in the solo mode, this kind of ability is not used in the game. So if you have any of those cards with those purple abilities, you're just not going to use them in the solo mode. There's also additionally the purple with the 3-sword flag, and that is going to be that all players, all other players, aside from yourself, will be able to do that ability. So if I discarded this one, all other players beside myself would be able to draw 1 card. That'd be everything for the planning phase. You can discard those cards for those ally abilities. You don't have to, but you can in order to help other players. This is a time that you're going to be able to discuss what you're going to be able to do during the round, what you can do to help other players, so that everyone can succeed together during that round. So that is everything for the planning phase. And then moving on to the biggest phase of the round, which is the action phase. And this is going to be the phase where everyone simultaneously is going to be building different chains. So in order for me to explain this, I'm going to kind of give you guys a little overview of what a card looks like and some of the icons that you're going to see during the game. But this is one of the action cards. You're going to have a different icon at the top. So there are 3 different icons. There is the owl, the bear, as well as the lion. So it is blue, green, and gold. And these are going to be the icons that you're going to need in order to tuck these cards. So there's 3 different ways that you can use these cards. One is placing them for the main action. Another action is to be able to tuck them under a card to activate the ability at the bottom of the card. And then another way is to obviously discard them for the ally abilities. So this one here I could place down, and every card is going to have a main ability, and then at the bottom is going to be the tucking ability, or you can always use inspiration dice to activate them as well. So this one here does not have a tucking ability, but it does have a main ability, which is that I would gain 1 inspiration die and I would gain 1 kind of buying power for the temple track. So that I would keep track of on my little dial here. But as for the inspiration die, let me quickly go through what those have. So there are 4 different faces on the inspiration dice. So there is a 1 inspiration icon, a double inspiration icon, there is a shield icon, as well as a draw and play icon. So the single inspiration and double inspiration are going to be the die faces that you're going to use to activate tuck abilities. So on my turn, I could also place this card beside, continuing this chain, which I will get to how I can do that. But I can then use this inspiration die as one of the 3 icons in order to activate this ability here. I could have also taken a card that has the owl icon and tucked that beneath in order to activate this ability, but I can also use an inspiration die as any of those 3 icons, owl, bear, or lion, in order to activate this as well. So that is how the inspiration icons work. The shield icon is obviously that you would just get 1 shield ability, which is being able to slide a die over to the shielded side. So whatever face you rolled on that die would not happen because that die is shielded. So that is the shield side. And then lastly, you have the draw and play. So the draw icon is obviously that you would just draw 1 more card from your draw pile. If you ever run out of cards in your draw pile, you will shuffle your discard pile, and then that would be your new draw pile. But then there's also a play icon, which comes into play with the chaining of these cards. So the last thing I wanted to point out on these cards is there's an arrow on the right side. If there is, that means that you can continue the chain. So this card here does have an arrow, so that's how I was able to play this second card into this chain. This card does not have an arrow, so that would be the end of that chain. Then there is this play icon, which, like I said, if I had that inspiration die, I would be able to place that there as one of the 3 icons in order to activate this icon, which is the play icon. The play icon is like a little arrow on a flag. That's going to allow me to start a new chain. So then I would be able to play another card into a second chain. This card does have an arrow, so I would be able to play another card into this chain. This card has an arrow, so then I would be able to play another card into this chain. Maybe I don't want to. I want to use this card. So that would be kind of the play of the round. You're going to be playing these cards down into these chains, playing more chains if you're able to with these play actions. And then once you were finished with everything, that would be at the end of the round. And once everyone was finished with their simultaneous playing of their cards, that would be the end of that phase. Now for all the icons that you're going to be seeing on these cards, there are a bunch of different icons, but the main ones are going to be that play icon. There's also going to be the inspiration die icon, which you will gain an inspiration die into your pool here, which you can have a max of 5. And you don't have to use an inspiration die once you get it. You can kind of hold on to it until you would like to use it, so in any other future rounds. But the moment that you roll the die, the inspiration die, you have to use it that round. You can't roll it and then decide, I don't really want that, and then place it back into my pool. I have to use it once I've rolled it, And like I said, you could play these onto different spots. So I could have played that there to play another card. The other icons that you're going to see are the temple track icons as well as the monarchy track icons. So those are going to be added up in the next phase. So you can kind of spend those as a group or alone in a solo mode on those tracks. There's also a reroll icon, which that allows you to re-roll any of your danger dice. And I believe also the inspiration dice as well, if you'd like to re-roll those. There's also the shield icon that helps you shield those danger dice. There is the discard a card icon as well. So some cards will allow you to draw and discard cards. There is also a trash a card icon. So this is mainly for the wound cards because you do want to get those out of your hand and back into the pool. There's also attack icons, which is a flame icon. It'll show you how many kind of attack you get towards the enemy. That's a big part of the game, is trying to get the enemy's health down to 0. And that is pretty much everything for the main icons on the cards. A lot of different hero cards will allow you to do different things based off of other cards kind of in your pool at the end of the round. But yes, that is pretty much everything for the action phase. The next phase is going to be the resolution phase. So you are going to resolve everything. So you're going to resolve your dice. So if you're able to shield any of those dice, you're going to just place those back into the pool. Or if you're able to shield one of the safe die, those would then go back into the kind of main supply and get taken out of your pool, which is good. If you are unable to shield those dice, you're then going to gain your wound cards if you were unable to shield one of those. You're also going to lose honor if you were unable to shield any of those dishonor dice. But once you've resolved those, all of the dice would go back into your pool or into the supply. You would then also resolve your attack. Each player would then say how much damage they're doing, and then that would be added up and put towards the enemy. If the enemy was then 0, you would go into some kind of reset phase for the next enemy, which I'll get into in a second. But also each player would then say how much temple and monarchy kind of power or spending power that they have to put towards the tracks. And then each of these spots on the track is going to have a number that you have to spend in order to then go up to that spot. So for example, here I could either go up 1 space. So on these tracks, you can only ever go up diagonally or up straight. You can never go straight across, if that makes sense. And you're kind of determining the path that you're going based off of the things that you want to get. So I could go up straight to a new advanced card, or I could go up diagonally to get a new consumable card. And whenever you gain these, like I said, you are going to deal out a certain amount of cards. And then if it's the solo mode, you're going to get 3 cards to choose from. If it's the multiplayer, you're going to draft from that pool of cards. So I could spend 1 monarchy to go up 1 space to the consumable, and then I would be able to gain another consumable. And then, for example, if I had, let's say, or we as a group had 3, I'd be able to go up 1 space, get a consumable, and then go up another space to get an advanced action card. So you're spending all of the stuff on both of these tracks in order to gain more stuff into your deck of cards or into your tableau. All of the stuff that you gain does go into your discard pile, so all of that would go into your discard pile. And also additionally, you would kind of clean up your play space here, so any of the inspiration dice that you used, those would go back into the pool. All of these cards that I have played out would then be discarded into my discard pile. And then we'd move on to the last phase, which is the cleanup phase. So during the cleanup phase, you would simply, if you had any cards left in your hand, because you don't have to play out everything that you have in your hand each round. So if I had anything left, I would then be able to discard as many as I would like, and then you are always going to draw back up to 5 cards. So I don't have anything left in my hand, but I am going to draw back up to 5 cards in my hand. And then if you are playing this multiplayer, the leader totem would be passed to the next player, and you'd move on to the next round. So the last thing that I wanted to quickly explain is if you do defeat an enemy. So once you've defeated an enemy and you've gotten its health down to 0, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to draw 2 traits. So this is either in the solo mode or in the multiplayer. And as a group or solo, you're going to determine which one of these 2 you want to move forward with. And like I said, each of these traits are going to give you something good and also something bad. So for example, if I chose this one here, this is the Courage and Cowardice card. The courage side is the good thing, which happens immediately, and in a 1 to 2 player game, you'd be able to discard one of your dice, whether that be a gray die or a black die, back into the main supply. Or in a 3 to 4 player game, you'd be able to do this with 2 dice. So that is the good thing. And then the cowardice side, the bad thing, is during next enemy setup, you have to add, in a 1 to 2 player game, 8 additional health to that enemy, or in a 3 to 4 player game, it'll be 15 additional health. So both of these things are kind of like one and done, but some of them are going to be in every enemy phase, in every action phase. Good and bad things will happen as well. So I could decide to choose this as the solo game. I would then be able to discard this die back into the main supply, and then during the next enemy setup, so this is the next thing that I would do, I would discard the enemy number 1. We would take out the next enemy, which is enemy number 2. I would look at its health here, which it is 25 plus 5, so it is actually at 30 health. And then the enemy marker would be set back down to the first bottom spot. This would then trigger the threat to go up. That would gain me my die back, which is fine because I would have had 2. And then because of this cowardice here, I would have to add more health. So in a 1 to 2 player game, I would have to add 8 more health to this enemy, so it would start at 38. So that would be everything for resetting the enemy. And once you have defeated the 3rd enemy, if you have not ran out of time or your dishonor is not at 0, you will successfully win the game. Obviously, if you run out of time or if your honor gets down to 0, that's going to mean that you lose the game. But yes, if you're able to defeat enemy number 3 with either of those things not happening, then you win the game of Honor's End. All right, friends, so that is going to be everything for this preview of Honor's End. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing all about this game so you can get a better feel if it's something that you would enjoy. Like I said, I will have the link to the campaign down below if this is something that you are interested in picking up and backing. A huge thank you again to Ivy Studios for sponsoring today's video. I appreciate it so much. Give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy. Also, hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. I love you guys so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.